What's the school system like? Do you also have the class A, like elementary, middle school, high school, and stuff?
We don't call them middle school, elementary, and high school. Like if you ask like a Singaporean, what grade are you? They just stop. What does that mean? So we follow the British UK system. So
Okay.
we have primary school, and then secondary school, and then that's where it gets messy. You either go to junior college, which is like the last 2 years of high school, I think, or you go to a trade school, which is called polytechnics.
Okay.
So polytechnics are kind of like mini universities, and you graduate with a diploma. So you go in choosing a course, and then you graduate with a diploma. So anyway, just to backtrack a little bit, I think education in Singapore starts like kindergarten. So you have nursery, but I think nursery is like optional. Then kindergarten is where it really starts. And then you follow through primary school. When you come to secondary school, you start to choose subjects that you want to do: physics, bio. You go to JC or you go to poly. And then for JC kids, they generally go to university after that. For poly kids, it used to be the thing where if you have a diploma, it's enough for you to work. But then now the society is getting so competitive that even a diploma is not really enough. So you have to go to university, which kind of like one step forward, two step back. Because the main point of polytechnics at the time where it was established was that it to give people like an easier way to get a diploma and get a job. But now it's kind of dumb, because then you have to do a diploma and you just to be competitive, and for employers to want to hire you, you have to go to university. And polytechnics takes 3 years.
Okay.
JC takes 2 years. So some people say, why would I do an extra year and be late? But in my opinion, I think polytechnics are great, because a lot of people I work with I'm from engineering, they have a lot of hands-on skills if they've been to polytechnics. Not saying that the JC people have no skills. It's just that the polytechnics people have more hands-on skills because they have experience with it, and they have to do like an internship before they graduate, so they have a bit more experience. That's school, the system.
And how difficult is it like to get through? Like, for example, now that you've been to school here and also Australia, what would you say? Like, what's the difficulty level like?
I think it depends, because I find it difficult here based on the way they conduct their classes. It's different from what I'm used to in Singapore, or rather, it's different from what I'm used to in my local university.
Okay.
In terms of the stress level of the system here and the system in Singapore is stressful. Here even more so. Okay. So in Singapore, they start kids young. Like, you have to go to what we call tuition classes. It's like more classes on top of school to keep up with school. So in Singapore, the government doesn't really say it, but there is a very clear divide between the elite schools and like what we call like neighborhood schools or non-elite schools. So like a lot of people, the kiasu parents who don't want to lose out, would want to send their kids, make sure their kids are like well decked out in terms of academics, and then send them to elite schools, because then it's it's like a snowball effect. You get a good school, you get a good university, you get a good job and stuff like that. So people, I mean, it's a rat race for sure. There's this pressure where you don't want to fall behind from your peers. You don't want to be retained a year. If it retains a year, it's like a stigma. It's very bad, or like you're not a smart kid or whatever. So it's a very bad mindset that I think people should get out of. But then I was also like, what's the word for it? I also fell into that mindset, because when I was in Australia, I was supposed to do 2 years, but I stopped it short because I didn't like what I was studying, and I came back. And in order to be the same age or like the same pace as my peers, I had to work really hard to get back to local uni. I was so worried. But the thing is, now if I think back about it, why am I worried? Because eventually I can work hard enough to get into university. But at the time in my head, it's like, I have to get back now. Like, I have to join. I have to run back and stick with the pack. But it's such a bad mindset. And I think that's also why the guys are like, I don't want to use 2 years in NS, because then like I'll be behind on the pack, or like I don't want to go to the polytechnic because it's 3 years and I'll be like behind my peers. So that's how the culture is like. I think it's changing, but it's still very slow. Yeah.
That's very interesting. If you compare it to like European culture, I talked to Nana from Denmark, also in a different episode, and she said like how it's actually encouraged to take a gap year, go travel, go see the world, hang out, chill. There's even an extra year to basically you do have some classes, but it's very chill. They encourage you to have a life except from school, to just be a kid and grow up. And in Switzerland, it's the same thing. Usually, most guys, it's the same thing. As you mentioned earlier, we can go between 18 and 26, and you can choose when. But I did it, for example, just as soon as I could before my studies, so I could finish it and then do my studies in one piece.
Yeah.
Because others would like start during your studies, and then you have to take like a semester off, maybe depending on how you schedule it. And girls, since they don't have to go to the military, they often take a gap year to travel or do something else.
So while the guys have military, they would travel.
That really depends on. We have the two different styles of services in the military. You can do what I did. That's it's longer, but you do all your service in one piece, and then you're done forever.
Yeah, yeah.
And the other one is you do 18 weeks in 1 year, and then you do 4 weeks every year until you have roughly 300 days in total. And that takes long, and it's just inconvenient. For some, like when you apply for a job, sometimes they'll ask you like, do you still have to go to the military? Like, will I not have you 4 weeks a year?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it's at the end of the day, it's just a schedule issue, but it's up to you how you do it. And I just did everything at once, so it's done. And but I'm probably still gonna go back. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess that's the good thing that the boys is able to do at 18, so that when they come out and they go to a job, they don't have to deal with the have you done your military service yet. But now that you remind me, this idea of a gap year is also very frowned upon. Like people don't see it in a good like, you're gonna take a gap year, then you're gonna be 1 year behind. And I'm like I did it as well because I think about it as like my friend took a gap year, like, oh, you sure? But I'm like, why am I asking you to share? Like, he wants to take a gap year, he should take a gap year. And you're never going to be that age again to be in that pink of health. But the sad thing is, I think Singaporeans are so caught up in their rat race, they don't see that. Now the younger generation is like traveling more, seeing the world, and be like, oh yeah, maybe I should take a gap year. It's starting to be less frowned upon. But back then it was like, oh, you don't want to take a gap year? And you can be like struggling with mental health and you will still be contemplating whether you want to take a gap year. It gets that bad in Singapore.
It's crazy, but also very interesting. Like now, ever since I started this culture edition of the podcast, I can really compare like different cultures. And so far, what I've heard from the Asian parts, it's really very like efficient, get shit done, go to school, and you go to school as long as and intensely as possible to get a good job, and then you live as a worker. You live to work kind of thing. And in Europe, so I have my next podcast going to be with Finland. I mean, a Finnish girl.
You're a top country.
And when I did my research, I found that most people don't work longer than like 4 p.m. And it's really the life is, you do have to study, of course, but it's very you work to live kind of way. You do work, to sustain yourself and everything, but it's a lot more freedom, a lot more let the people do what they want, especially like the school that in Denmark I learned about is also very that you can learn more what interests you, and you don't get like math shoved down your throat. It's not hammered into you. Or for example, if you compare it to Korea, I was recently out to play billiard during the week, and we were at, I don't know, at like 9 maybe, we were at the subway station, and then a few kids in uniform ran past us. And then Joshua, my girlfriend, he said like, they are getting home from school now. And that's just crazy. Like when I was that age, in Switzerland there, you have school until like 3, maybe 4 or something. Like the worst I had was in high school, you have school until 5. At the very worst case 6, but that's only because you have like some
extra
special, exactly. But usually it's a lot more, you have a lot more time to be a kid.
I think it's just an Asian thing, because I think from the past, I think Asian people always got where the success that they got is always through hard work and struggle. So this mindset that you have to work really hard, you have to get that success, gets passed down in the generation, and then you see like in the way of life. So like what you mentioned, it's not uncommon too. Like in Singapore, they would have class till 3, 4. They would have 2 hours of tuition after that. So that puts them 6. Maybe they have piano lessons, violin lessons. After that, that puts them at like 9. Then they go to bed and they rinse and repeat. So it's not really a case now. Nowadays, the newer parents are like, do you want to do this? Do you need it? If you need it, I'll do it. If you don't want to do it, you don't have to learn piano. If you don't want to do it, you don't have to learn violin. So that's good. But it used to be like that as well. I'm pretty fortunate in the sense that my parents never really put much stress on me academically. So for me and my brother, they kind of just made sure that we studied what we need to study. The rest of the time, let us be kids. The interesting thing about that is I put a lot of pressure on myself. My parents don't stress me for university, but now when I go back, I'm like, my GPA is gonna tank. My GPA. I don't know why it matters so much to me. It's a mindset that has been ingrained in me as a Singaporean to always want to be like cream of the crop, keep up with the pack, make sure you're at the front of the pack. So it becomes interesting because now it's not even a generational thing where they pass it down, because my parents didn't stress me. It just becomes the society's mindset around this kind of issues. So I hope it changes soon. I think it is. Yeah. So that's basically it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see like the different collective mindsets of entire cultures, because it seems to be more the priority of happiness in like the European Nordic countries and stuff. And in Asia, it's a lot more, you have to deliver. Yes, you have to get results. Yeah. All right, well then, thank you very much for taking the time.
Thank you for having me. It was such a good conversation. I actually haven't spoken about Singapore so much.
Yeah, I'm glad you did. And you're interested.
Thank you so much. All right, maybe you will listen to this?
Yeah.